Yield.
No. Is that from like the Obama like pyramid thing? Yeah. Only had your I hate our Lord. Serious.
Okay. Yo, welcome back to On Scene. I'm your host, Thom Honeybone, here in a secret underground government facility with the military task force known as Section 9. We're here talking to them as a pre-interview for their final show on their 10-year anniversary. It's a melancholy night, but it'll be an epic night.
I'm Scott, also go by Purple Cloud. I DJ and I do artwork and help with getting general stuff done around the gig.
I'm Isaac. I've helped out with the logistics for a few of the recent gigs. I've also done some of the art for the posters. I'm not a DJ, but yeah.
Hey, I'm Lee, aka Behemoth, but I've changed my DJ name many times over the years. I play music, occasionally herd cats, and yeah.
Hey, I'm Cam, also go by Block. Been with Section 9 since 2016, 17, somewhere in that realm. Play music and generally try to make sure that everything is there for the show, do all the load and that sort of stuff.
Yo, my name's Lucas. I go by Dusty. I produce a lot of dubstep and also DJ here in Wellington. I met the Section 9 crew in about 2019 when I first moved to Wellington. And I've just been rocking with them ever since, bit of a family thing. I try to help out where I can. I help do a lot of the socials as a Zoomer, helping to get the events out there, and I've also been helping to run our radio spot on Radioactive FM with Homebase as well. Shout out Homebase. Cheer.
Yo, I'm Louis, aka Little John. Been part of Section 9 for probably like 8-9 years. Founded Third Eye with Chris and Wham way back, and just been playing, helping them run shows and just kicking about Wellington scene for a while now.
Hi, I'm Kate, also go by Nazvek. I joined Section 9 in 2017, and I mainly run the poster design work. Sometimes I do the artwork, have done that in the past, as well as helping out with the social safety side of the nights as well, just making sure that everyone's having a good time and staying safe.
Hey, I'm Josh. I play under the name Vesica. I am the last remaining founding member. The other member moved overseas, and the second other member, who joined very shortly after we formed, moved to another city. So I'm the last remaining one from day one. I think unofficially I do a lot of the sort of creative direction, run a lot of the meetings. I also, on the night, I just try to keep tabs on everything, literally everything. So I'm there for load in and load out every single time. There for sound check. I'm always in and out of the venue all around the entire night, eyes on everything. Sort of along the lines of the social safety that Kate was talking about. So yeah, just a little bit of everything, I guess.
I'm curious about the origin story of Section 9. Who's got the most comprehensive history?
All the way back.
All right.
So, origin and history of Section 9. Well, we're sitting in it right now. 2015, me and my friend Tim, we were living together in Churton Park, and it sucked because commuting in just sucks every day. We knew that we wanted to run some events, but we didn't really know how to get started, and we thought the best way to get started would just be to have parties. So we spent about a month trawling Trade Me for places that would have a suitable space to run parties. We found this, and it was perfect. So we moved in here, threw our first party almost immediately. Didn't get noise control for the first one, actually. It was pretty good. But after a few, I think the neighbours started to get a bit fed up. So, after a few unofficial Section 9s here, we did agree that that's what we were going to call our parties. A friend of ours said, hey, look, I know the manager of Bodega, which is a bar on Vivian Street, which is no longer open. They closed down some years ago. But he said, look, I know this guy. Do you want me to talk to him? You could probably run your party there and just have it as an official gig. Sounded good to us. So we did. So Bodega, there was like two main areas. There was basically like a big, large upstairs or ground level sort of venue. It was quite large, but they also had an underground basement bar, which was just perfect for us. Yeah, it was a great time. I remember there was another gig happening on the same night. There was some kind of like drum and bass gig or something, and we were thinking like, oh geez, we should have paid attention to what else was going on that night. We're probably not going to see that many people come through. Everyone's going to go to that. Apparently it sucked. And everyone left and came to ours like halfway through the night, and they were like, this is way better. So there was like well over 100 people squeezed into this basement in Bodega. By the way, the ceiling of this basement was like, I mean, I'm not a tall guy. Like, what am I? I'm like 5'10" or something. I think there was like really only like, this much between my head and the ceiling, and it was just like 100 people packed in there, like shoulder to shoulder. I remember there was like sweat like dripping off the ceiling at the end of the night. It sounds really gross, but it's like, it's a fond memory, Yeah, and so that went really well. The venue owner was really happy with us, and he said, do you want to come back? And we were like, yeah, absolutely.
For me, Section 9 was like a response effort on 3 different fronts. And I've been like thinking about this for like past couple of months or whatever, but like on the first front, like Section 9 was response to a gap in the market. So Strictly 138 was sort of like a predecessor crew in Wellington to Section 9, and their members either moved overseas or just went on to other projects. And what they were doing at that time was they were having like dubstep and grime and garage nights here in Wellington. They brought over internationals, and then when Strictly 138 disbanded, there was like nothing for, in my view, like the introverted dark horse to go to. They just wanted to like chill out and like hang with their mates and do all that sort of thing. So there was this sort of gap at that time that like Section 9 started up. There was also like a fairly large presence of, I guess, like drum and bass and halftime, and of course you had techno and house running around the Wellington scene, and all over New Zealand. But like Section 9 really was like this sort of antithesis to that, and I think like Josh kind of alluded to it, where people could actually go to something that was different, and that was awesome. Like you didn't really have like the pumped up drum and bass sort of thing happening at Section 9s. There were no bottles getting smashed on the ground. There were no teenagers fighting, no one passing out in the bathroom, no MCs screaming over the mic. And you have to remember, like, back in those days, we didn't have the sound systems or like the engineers that we have now. Like, we don't have Third Eye Hi-Fi, we don't have Further or Banshee, we don't have these sound systems that we had. We had the house systems, so we just had to work with that. And then the third response was like to a sense of community. Like, in my view, there was almost no safe alternative. Like, we chatted earlier about how it can almost feel intimidating to walk into a gig and just see, like, you know, people doing drugs or like going like really, really, really fucking hard. And like Section 9 was way more laid back. Like, we just played sort of kind of broody, gritty, dark, bass heavy music that was sort of slower, but, you know, it was a sense of community. And that was the response for Section 9. Like, there was a need for that introverted dark horse that just wanted to chill out with their hoods up in the dark in a corner or front left right next to a speaker. That was it. And there were no other like crews doing that at the time. And like, I remember walking into my first Section 9. It was the last one that we had at the Blind Tiger, which was underneath Bodega, and there was this stairway that sort of went down, and there was probably only like 70 people there. But I remember going in and Paige Julia was playing, and as you said, I specifically have this memory of sweat dripping from the ceiling. It was tight, and a lot of friends, like, I've made a lot of friends that I still have today from that gig. And then there's this sort of underlying philosophy that sort of underpinned Section 9 over the years, which was like, for me, other people might view it differently, but it was like music to make you feel and move and make you think about why it's moving you. Like, it was creative, it was interesting, it was dark, sometimes off-kilter, broody, gritty. That was it. And then you had the aesthetic of like dim blue lights and like Ghost in the Shell motifs that kind of added to this sort of dystopian, gritty feel, especially in like the early days of Section 9, I think. But yeah, that's kind of like my views, my viewpoint of like the history of Section 9 from roughly when it first started playing out at like venues. Yeah, so that's my spiel. Also, thank you to everyone that supported us over the years. It's meant a lot. Like, we wouldn't have been here today without the punters like showing up, without a venue like the venue owners, the bar staff, the tour managers, the international artists, all the DJs, the VDJs, everyone that supported us over the last 10 years has like just like, we love you guys, so thanks.
It's really about the why of it. Like, what are we doing, and why is it that we've chosen to do it this way? So like, why this music, and you know, what need is there to do something like this? And yeah, Lee, what you said is, it's bang on. In large part, it was definitely a response to the sort of cultural climate of party culture in those days. To a large extent, there's still a sector of party culture that's a lot like that, and that's sort of what you find on Courtney Place, which, if you're not a Wellingtonian and you're watching this, is like the main drag where all the shit clubs are, where they play top 40 music. No shade, full shade. So yeah, there's you know, what we had observed, and the reason why we wanted to start doing something like this was quite a few reasons actually. But first and foremost, you know, we were well over just like middle of the road, like going clubbing. Like, it just sucks. There's a lot of toxic behaviour. There's a lot of violence. Binge drinking is a real big problem in New Zealand as well. And then, so naturally, we were driven to the more sort of alternative kind of partying, which, you know, you can go any number of ways, but we ended up falling into sort of like electronic dance music, if you like. Don't really like the term, but it gets the point across, you know. At the time, before we started, there was a legendary club, actually, Sandwiches, which you'll either remember or you don't. You would have heard the name. And that was where all of the, like, you know, like the historic great gigs happened before our time. I remember going there many nights, most of which I only remember pieces of. But yeah, sadly, Sandwiches closed down, and that was a big blow to the community. There was a period of quite a few years where everyone was just like, what do I do now? Like, it's a weekend, like, where do I go? What are we doing? Sandwiches was the only place you could hear dubstep at all. Although they did primarily do drum and bass, I will say that. But yeah, it was the only place you could go to hear dubstep. So there's a few crews running around at that time. Strictly 138, and P Vans was running his Ghost Dubs night. And then Sandwiches closed down, and that was kind of it for ages. There was a big gap of like 4, maybe 5 years where there was if you wanted to go out, your options were drum and bass or house and techno. That was it. You didn't have any other options, or unless you, I don't know, if you could go to a jazz club or something, I guess, but different kettle of fish, you know. So Lee's right. You know, it was very much a response to that, but it was also a cultural response. It wasn't just like, oh, we prefer this type of music. There was a cultural component. My particular perspective is that different kinds of people are drawn to different kinds of music. Different cultures end up giving birth to different kinds of music, and they're often thematically linked to the cultural values, which in turn influences the way that people behave. And one of the things we noticed is a lot of the gigs we were going to, we were really unimpressed with how people were behaving. So there's, again, a lot of violence, a lot of, frankly, unhealthy drug use. I had a number of female friends who they were just scared to go out because guys would just harass them, you know. And so one of the things that we really considered at the time was like, look, we like to party, but not like that. And so we thought long and hard about it. Naturally, because, you know, there were, because of just the way that we were and are, we were sort of naturally drawn towards the, I guess, slightly slower, more introspective kind of music. But we also found that the people that were like-minded were also drawn to that. And so what we realized is that different people are drawn to different kinds of music, and we like to party, but we don't want to be subject to that kind of unhealthy behavior. The logical thing to do is run parties with the kinds of music that we like. And it was sort of an experiment at the time because we weren't 100% certain that it would work that way. It was just kind of like, you know, we were just like theory crafting. But we were like, what if we do this? What if we run parties and we play this kind of music? What's going to happen? Like, is our theory right? Like, are we going to end up getting people who like to party but also like to sort of be a bit chill about it? And it turned out to be right. We've got 10 years of evidence that it works that way.
Yeah, you mentioned how much you guys are proud of, like, ensuring you have a safe environment at your gigs, and I'm curious, just for myself as a person who runs gigs and for people watching who might, what is the key ways that you guys ensure that?
So we put together a small group, and we're called the Tachikomas, and we roam around the night. We have special high vis on so that people can kind of see that we're there, and it has a big 9 on the back of it, and essentially it's purely for visibility. We've never really had to do anything other than keep an eye on things. But I think it's really important that people know that there is someone safe there who can act on their behalf by, you know, alerting Valhalla staff members or, you know, Moon Bar staff members if there's any untoward behaviour going on. We have had, you know, moments where we've managed to nip things in the bud before it even gets into an issue. A lot of the time, you can just tell when someone isn't there for the right reasons, and usually you can tell when you're at the door. I've had a lot of women come up to me and say, I can come to a Section 9 night by myself because it's one of the only parties that I can go to where I feel completely safe, and I can walk up to anyone and talk to anyone and know that they don't have ulterior motives or strange intentions or anything like that, purely because the community that we've built and the people that we have around us are wanting to experience good music, but also want to be a part of the community. And being a part of a community means conducting yourself in a way that keeps everyone together. And in order to do that, you have to make sure that you're looking out for each other and keeping each other safe and looking after your mates and making sure that they're not getting too rowdy, taking waters around and doing that. And as the Tachikoma crew, the social safety crew, we do that, formally in a sense. But I think a big part of it too is that, the people who come to our shows are doing most of that for us.
The one thing, if you're running gigs or if you're thinking about running gigs, the one practice you can really put in place is doing structured debriefs of the night, right? So just after COVID lockdowns ended, we started running shows again, and we had dramatic success. Our nights were starting to get really full, and it was great. The parties were really good, but we were kind of okay, is this getting to is this about as far as you want to take it, as far as how many people can we put in Valhalla and operate safely and so on? And having these kind of structured debrief sessions where we sit down and we kind of talk about what went well and what didn't go so well, and how do we feel about it and what stood out and what are we holding on to in memory, helps us to kind of make those decisions about, okay, we need to make sure that we've got some more people floating around, checking in on people, or our door's getting a little bit overwhelmed, or our door setup isn't quite good enough to be able to operate that safely, or our sound is getting a wee bit loud or too quiet or whatever, peaky throughout the night. And just setting up those kind of rituals or processes is really useful, because then you can iterate and get better running shows and doing it safely. It's kind of the one thing that's quite special operationally about Section 9 is that we run a really tight ship. We've kind of got these processes that have been pretty well nailed out over a decade, and I don't even know how many shows we've done in that time. And that lets us develop the best experience possible for everyone that's going to be involved. And sometimes that means, we just cut door early, we're at capacity of what we want to deal with. And we know where that point is because we've kind of, really thought about it and said, okay, at this point it was good, and at this point it started to get a little bit sketchy, or, we were starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable about it. And we're able to kind of calibrate over time like that.
It helps having a fairly large crew. There's quite a few of us and everyone knows the deal, so everyone's looking out for anything that might be a little bit worrying. And the second thing is, as Section 9 has grown over the years, all of us ourselves, we've just become really tight. We know each other really well. And so in our debriefs, we just we're fairly open and honest about what we see. But yeah.
The one thing you said that spoke to me was standing in front of a sound system. I think maybe that could even relate to not needing to be, as fucked up to enjoy the night, because the music is good. You've got that stimulation. You feel it all through your body. And yeah, I think Yeah, I think that definitely ties into sound system culture, and it seems like that's something that you guys have always really wanted to push, and it's blossomed since, from what it sounds like, since you guys started. I'm curious, what are some things you think that some great things about sound system culture that maybe are outside of music and pure sonics? What are some things you love about it that you think are good for the scene?
It's an interesting one, but when it comes to sound system, I remember my first time standing in front of a sound system. I just dropped out of high school, and my mum, she had this mate who was running a festival, and she was like, "You got to do something. You can't just wait," because I had an internship lined up. She's like, "You can't just sit around playing video games. Like, you got to do something." So she shipped me up to Raglan to go work on this this festival, which was run by Michael Robbins, who runs Red Robin Records, Reggae Rodeo Sound System, but back then he's with the Lion Rockers crew, and it was this big sound system gathering basically in Raglan. It had like 3 stacks of sounds just in a paddock, and they were just playing reggae for like 3 days. And I was not really, I listened to a little bit of Bob Marley or, here and there, but when I went to this like paddock that was just fucking blaring this like these 70s 80s roots reggae on these massive machines, like I'd never heard anything like it, and completely sober, you're just standing in front of these things that like shaking your fucking retinas, like, and it's like old like 70s roots music, and like the horns are like bellowing vocals through the hills, and it almost sounds like fucking like in North Korea they've got those like propaganda fucking it's fucking crazy. But the vibe was just insane. And like after that I was kind of like chasing the dragon, like I just wanted to find that. And I remember turning 18, I'm like, sweet, I'm 18, let's go to town, go to a club. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, where's the sound system? And it was like a weird, like I kind of like was my first introduction to it, and I thought it was like normal, but apparently not. And so I kind of had to search it out, and the first thing I found that kind of like brought me back to that was Section 9, and I was kind of like, what do you guys do? You guys need any help? Like, or what can I do? Can I lift some speakers? And they're like, well, we're not a sound system crew. Like, do you have records? Do you play records? I'm like, yeah, I play records. They're like, what are you doing right now? So I like grabbed my records, like put it in my little Toyota Corolla, drove out from Eastbourne out here to play some records. And yeah, I don't know, I feel like sound system, it's like you said, you don't actually need substances to enjoy it, because it's such this powerful force that's physiologically changing you, it's like shaking your eyes so you can see the music. It's like physically changing your state of being, which you don't really get like, just in a lot of places, especially with like tinny high, mid-high, like blaring fucking speakers at clubs. Overseas, they like to call sound system sessions a session, because it's not, for a lot of like rootsy sort of sound system operators, it's not a party, it's kind of like a healing experience, where everybody kind of like unites as one sort of like dance floor that just is all surrounded by this big sound. And often you get, your sound system operators and selectors and DJs, they're not on a podium, they're not high above, they're like on the same floor as everybody who's dancing, so everyone's kind of becoming one in this big dance in front of a sound.
Yeah, you asked specifically about like some of the aspects of sound system culture, perhaps not directly related to the sonics, and the one really important central principle that at least sticks out to me, and I keep hearing from other people in the community, is it's about unity. It's centrally it's about unity of the people, and in particular uniting them through sound. One of my favorite record labels ever is literally called Unity Through Sound. Some of your audience might have heard that sound system culture originated in Jamaica. So obviously it's intrinsically tied to roots reggae, steppers, and a Rastafarian influence. but the culture and obviously the music morphed a lot because there was a diaspora of Caribbean immigrants into the UK, and that's what gave birth to the children genres, if you like. So, like, just one example, why is dubstep called dubstep? Well, because it's a child of two things, dub music and two-step garage. It's literally why it's called dubstep, right? So there's like a lineage, if you like, or like a family tree of these musical genres that all trace their origins back to Jamaican sound system culture and that music. And despite the fact that those genres might have diverged sonically or thematically or with sound design, you know when it's done right because there's a palpable sense of unity. And I think that's really the key thing that has to be taken into account if you want to run a show and do it well and have it be good for the people, not just a good time but also genuinely good for them. Then the thing you need to be thinking of is how can I unite people. So I think that's probably the key aspect that's sort of not directly related to the sound itself, but more about the cultural values. And I think we see a surprisingly decent amount of that in New Zealand. Christchurch is famous for it as well. But besides that, also, Louis, you mentioned, like with sound system music and the umbrella term that of all the genres that entails. One of the, again, sort of uniting features is it's the bass, right? And the thing that's really interesting about that, when the rig's done right, when it's tuned properly, when you're playing the right kind of music. Just as an example for my personal journey, when I was young, I used to listen to and play jazz. I still do. I really like it, right? But the first time I went to a sound system event, I realized something, and that's music isn't just something you listen to. You physically feel it, and in some cases, if the sound system is really good, like Louis said, you see it. It literally vibrates your eyeballs, right? So it's music that you can not only listen to, it's music you can physically feel, it's music you can see. So it really pushes a lot of the boundaries of just a musical phenomena.
The other thing about sound system culture is really about just getting a bunch of mates together to get something done. People forget that subwoofers are really heavy. You're talking like this large box, probably weighs like, I don't know, 60, 80, 100 kilo, depending on what you put in there. You kind of need a group of people to move those around. But yeah, if you're keen and you're interested and you know someone, or you've ever seen someone operating a sound system, you can push boxes. It's a good way to, make mates and have some fascinating experiences. There was one gig we did. It was down in this gun emplacement on the Otago Peninsula in Dunedin, and what we had to do was clear out first of all this bunker which was pretty well overgrown, and we were hauling these subs down this more or less cliff face off this tiny little access road to run this party that we'd told the locals was like a music video, and they definitely bought it. But yeah, you just get a whole bunch of people together, you can throw parties, you can have a good time, and the community makes it happen. It's kind of the important bit for me.
When they more peace, they
I'm curious for like how you organize gigs and stuff. Like what would you say are like the pillars of that ecosystem? What are some of the roles like that are necessary in a crew, you think?
So I guess one of the more abstract pillars would be everyone's core values being aligned. When everyone is aiming towards the right direction, it's almost effortless. We come together, we ask, why did this go wrong? What could we do better? And through those, we find out that, safety crew would be nice. Like each and every one of our actions, we decide like, this artist would be good. The placement within each hour of the night, we consider that for how that's going to affect the people. We consider security depending on the time of the year, the kind of artist and the crowd they'll bring in, and of course, a good sound system that'll treat the people nice.
The greatest pillars, it's like what they call a bundle of sticks, You've got to be stronger together. When you have many people, it does help quite a bit. But that's not to say that if there are people watching this who might only have one friend or two friends, that they can't also run a great night. So I think it's important to say that you need to trust the people that you're working with, and you need to know that they're going to have your back if something goes wrong. And I think I can say just for everyone about everyone else here, I trust them with my life. There's moments when you're running an event where you might have had a bad day, things have gone wrong at work, things aren't looking good for you in whatever personal aspect, but you're still going to show up and you're going to be supported by the people around you running that show. And I think it's just really valuable. And, I've been with this crew for probably about 6 or 7 years now, and there's so many events in my life that I think back to, good and bad, that have coincided with these regular meetings, these shows, just this involvement. And I think that's really special. So if you're thinking about running a gig with someone, just make sure that you're a good friend. You've really got to support each other. And I think the fruits of the labour for people who really care about each other, it shows in the show. I think we've seen, quite often these more upmarket clubs, these places along the strip that, for all intents and purposes, they're just running shows for money. They're running shows for a purpose of, not really caring about what the people feel, but just how much they can make on the bar and what the turnover is going to be. And I think that attitude and the people behind those shows and those bars and whatnot really reflects in how it operates and the crowds that draw there. So yeah, another thing about Section 9 is just that whenever you come, you understand that it has a purpose and everyone's really keen to be there. Everyone's giving their full energy, and it kind of bounces around the room. I think you kind of get what you put into it. So yeah, as long as you trust your mates and kind of have a good time where you can, I think you'll be solid.
One of the most important things I find with people in the crew is they need to be there, like be willing to show up, turn up, and do exactly what they say they're going to do. They need to they need to have integrity, right? Like that's the most important thing. Like there's been quite a few friends of mine who have offered to help out, and we're like, yeah, sure, turn up, and they don't, and it's no skin off our back if they don't do that. But when they do turn up, we get gems. Like Isaac, for example. Isaac just started turning up. He didn't actually step into music at all prior to it, other than like seeing me mixing at a party at some point and having a little go at it. And that's really all it takes. Once your values are aligned with the people that you want to work with and all that stuff, is just turning up and walking the walk.
Someone with connections, I guess someone who knows another person who owns a sound system. Yeah, that'll be good. We hire out Third Eye, which Louis is a part of. We get further someone who has connections or who can sort out a venue. The decks and the equipment is also important. We usually get it from Leather Kennel, the mixers, the CDJs, or if we need turntables, we use the ones we have here at home. Having a large crew helps with running door. That's never really been a problem with us. And yeah, on a more functional answer, those would be the good roles to have.
Large crew helps, really useful. Good connections definitely help. But you can, I think 2 people is kind of the absolute minimum to run a reasonably functional gig, so long as you're smart about how many people you want to get in the door. Like, maybe 100 people, it's probably about as far as you'd want to go. Work with your bar staff, work with your venues. But, you know, like, I just encourage, if anyone's watching and has had like a rough idea of running a show for some niche genre that they're super interested in because no one else is doing it, like, just do it, send it, it's good.
It's the why that drives you. It's the why that gives you dedication to make sure things are done as well as they can possibly be done. And it also gives you the metrics that you use to judge whether or not you've done it well. If it's just 1 or 2 people, that's pretty easy. That's, you know, a conversation that can be had in an afternoon. The larger the crew, the more difficult it becomes. You know, you sort of have to get agreement across, you know, everyone. Like Isaac said, you all need to be pulling in the same direction. If you have some people who are pulling in a different direction, then you get wasted effort. Not only do you get wasted effort, but you also, you'll like, yeah, you'll get friction. You'll also wind up with just like misfires in a practical sense. Yeah, so you all need to, you know, you don't all have to have the same opinion on everything. We're all very different people. We disagree on a lot of the time. Usually it's fun, you know, but when it comes to what matters, what we're doing and why we're doing it, we're all on the same page. And I think it doesn't matter how big or small your crew is, and it doesn't, in my opinion, matter even what you're doing, whether it's, you know, sound system oriented stuff, whether it's bluegrass, indie, folk, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You have to know what it is and you have to know why you're doing it. And if you get those 2 things right, everything else will come.
Good